Hi everyone, this is Tom Caswell, video producer at GameSpot, and I am joined by Ben Janka, one of the masterminds of our back end here at GameSpot. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm great. We have a new Death Stranding trailer, and I can't wait to dig into it.
Ben and I are probably the two biggest Death Stranding fans on the team. We did a breakdown of the first reveal trailer that happened, I believe it was at the Game Awards 2 years ago now. And now we finally have a proper, big, chunky Kojima, nearly 10-minute trailer to break down. There's tons to see and talk about in the game, so let's jump into it. The first thing we see in the trailer here, obviously we have Fragile, but we also have a new character. This character we don't know the name of yet. If you're a cinema fan, you'll be familiar with this person. This is the body of George Miller, who has been scanned and put into Kojima's database of virtual
friends?
Yeah, virtual friends that he has. George Miller will not be playing the character, much like how I don't believe Guillermo del Toro actually played his character in the first game. I think it was someone else. Marty Roan is apparently the person behind this voice and performance. They're a singer-songwriter and performer. Obviously, we have the gloves covering Fragile's mouth, which I have no context for, just more weird tech. One thing of note here is on George Miller's character's chest, there is a insignia for DHV Magellan, which we see and is referenced to multiple times in this trailer. We saw it in the first trailer. This is the ship and seemingly will be kind of our hub for the game. DHV, I googled, doesn't necessarily have a concrete wording that is used for DHV, but I did find something. Dive and hydrographic vessel, which is something that the New Zealand Navy actually uses to describe one of its ships called the Manawanui. Basically, hydrography is the science that measures and describes the physical features of the navigable portion of the Earth's surface. Basically, ships that are intended to kind of survey what is beneath the waters, which seems to apply to what is going on here. Ferdinand Magellan was the name of a Portuguese mariner. He basically was the first person to circumnavigate the globe in the 1500s. Exploring the waters, all going on with this DHV Magellan. And then we see the logo for Drawbridge. Basically, this is her new company, right? She's left the company of Fragile. Now she has Drawbridge, which we soon eventually learn is kind of designed to fix the rest of the world, right? Like America has been connected. Now Drawbridge is trying to go out there and help the rest of the world.
Some very good fashion choices. I like the glasses. I really am excited to figure out what's going on with Fragile's extra hands.
In the next shot, we have this demon cat. We kind of get a lot of hints of creatures born from the tar, from the chiralium, born of the beach throughout this trailer, and this is our first indication of that. This cat actually is licking up the tar from the cocoon that the pair are examining on the table, and its tongue is the octopus tentacle that we've seen in the BB pod from the first trailer. So, just a lot going on here. A look at one of the many creatures are now coming, living things are now coming from the beach, and this might be one of them.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this demon cat, as I'm describing it?
I was gonna say the just tentacles appearing in a lot of places.
Yep.
The Magellan's logo insignia is like an octopus. The BB, like you mentioned before in the first trailer, turning into tentacles, or tentacles being in the pod. This cat with the tentacles.
Right.
And coming up soon, we'll actually see on the body, the markings are markings from a tentacle.
And then I also was just thinking now, also tentacles, very much the ropes of nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The strands of nature. The strand being something that connects, but also the idea of tentacle as well, being something that can also entrap. Here we have the cocoon. Not much to necessarily go on in this shot, but again, I think this is another creature, and this seemingly being a person born in the beach, born in the chiral tar. The next shot is the interesting. This is the markings that look very much like suckers. It also did remind me of Sam's staining of his arm when he gets touched as well. Very bizarre. Obviously, very little context for what is going on here. And then when you kind of zoom in, there are these hairs that are coming out of the center of them, and they're leaking chiralium, right? Any thoughts?
I'm trying to figure out if they were the hairs or the things that they were injecting earlier were like like pins to like pull something out or something, or
they look like hairs.
They look
right?
like hairs. I'm into that.
The interesting thing though is that he's tugging on this, it squirts out the tar and it hits Fragile's hand, which then causes the effects of timefall, which is a major part of the first game. Basically, rain was timefall, and anything that was caught in the rain would age. What this reveals, though, is that somehow Fragile has got her youth back. So if you remember in the first game, she basically just her face was youthful, but her body had been ravaged by timefall, and now she seems to have her youth again. Was that because like maybe we ended timefall in the first game, so like
all the effects of it went away or something?
Yeah.
I know that there's something where we also got the logo reveal for this game, and it's inverted from the original game.
Yes.
Which I'm sure is a thing we're probably going to talk about a lot more. And I feel like maybe we're on like the opposite side of something that is causing things to be the opposite side of what they are.
Yes, that's a note I have for later when we get to the logo at the end, but there is this kind of idea of inversion, the connections going like in the opposite direction. Lots of interesting imagery, and I do think that you're right, this could definitely be a part of that.
Yeah.
We get a close-up of the character. I think this is meant to be Elle Fanning's character, who we later seen cleaned up. I'm not entirely sure. It's very hard to tell, obviously, because they're covered in the tar. I thought it was interesting that they're looking up and they're seeing the lights behind George Miller and Fragile, and the lights here look like the tentacle imprint, right? You have like the white circle, and then you have the black dot in the middle. So I think that's just like an imagery thing. Obviously, like that's Kojima's bag.
The thing that stuck out to me, especially with this, like you're saying, the imagery in the eye. See, he did that in his reveal trailer for his other game that he's working on, with like opening doors being inside the eyes. So I wonder if he's doing more of that here.
So this shot, obviously infamous, right, for Death Stranding. Basically, like it occurs when specifically Sam is being repatriated, right, which is like he's coming back from the dead. But this one takes it to a complete other level where it spits up a little version of the Magellan.
Yeah.
Just what? Like,
we're really exploring
this is Kojima
places.
buffoonery on a new level.
I still love that the Magellan looks like a Metal Gear Rex head so much.
Yes, it definitely is very, very Metal Gear.
We're never going to get rid of the shot of the baby inside of the meat tube. It's going to be here
it's
for
iconic.
all of them. It's there and it's wild, and it's Kojima, and I'm here for it.
I think since we're seeing the Magellan in this sequence as well, there's a potential that maybe the ship is somehow harnessing Sam's repatriation in order to dive into the seam. And so maybe we're going to get vehicular gameplay where we're actually in control of the Magellan, and if it gets destroyed, it actually repatriates like Sam would, and that's why it's getting coughed up by the baby. The next scene we get, there's so much going on here. So firstly, they're blue, which is what they look like when they're in the seam, which is the waters between the beach, which is like the realm of the dead, right? And then, reality, right? So this very much insinuates that they are actually able to explore and go into the seam in the Magellan. And then on top of that, this Sam we have here is the older Sam that we see a lot in the first trailer. But for most of this trailer, we see Sam as we remember him, younger, his hair isn't graying.
I actually rewatched a bit of our old thing before this for the last trailer just to kind of remind myself. And I was really into this, like there's two timelines here. There's two different things like happening. And I still think that's a big possibility. I don't know how it breaks up either.
Fragile gives him a tour of the ship. We see this weapons room, which is reminiscent, obviously, of the bunkers that Sam could find. So it seems like we're just going to have one space in this game that's on the Magellan for, like, the armory and, like, just kind of, like, hanging out. There's a couple of things here. Firstly, this isn't the only suggestion of it, but the trailer really does heavily suggest that there's going to be a lot more like combat in this one, which I'm a little hesitant because it was my least favorite part of the first game. Like the more that it became like about shooting, I was actually less interested in the first game, as it was still enjoyable. And then the second thing is here, she also mentions that this is, you can test out weapons here. We see actually a VR helmet on the left-hand side. And so it seems like we can do some virtual reality training, which is obviously like also a callback to Metal Gear Solid and the VR missions in that game.
The big thing is definitely the VR headset, I think, for me, because in Director's Cut, they added all those actual VR missions.
Oh, okay. Yes, I haven't gotten around to playing the Director's Cut. I do want to before this comes out. So we're looking back at Sam. He's now in the Drawbridge outfit, which obviously looks very much like the Bridges outfit. But here he is young Sam, right? Like he's shaved the beard, he's had a haircut. Obviously he has the BB pod attached, which is blacked out, which means like it's not not active right now. So is he just carrying this around as a token? Is there the octopus thing in here, which is now acting as the new way for him to, see BTs? Like, what are your thoughts with all of the stuff around that?
I feel like he's got to have something in there. Because if he's making deliveries without something to set off the sensor to know where BTs are, he's probably going to be in a lot of trouble. Yeah, and I'm wondering if we're having it blanked out for convenience sake. Like,
yes,
we don't want to see what's in there yet. Kojima doesn't want to show it to us, or maybe
right.
It is just maybe we're sleeping.
All right,
this guy.
Here we go. We've got Alan Wake the puppet. Oh, something that I noticed in the first shot that I didn't bring up, but I can bring up here on the right glove, right? That's on the left-hand side of the screen. They have these rings that seem to be replacing the cufflinks from the first game. So there is this new tool, I guess, for them to, bring up the map and all of this. But obviously, the puppet.
I want to know more.
Sure, of course.
It's the answer to almost everything that we're seeing. But like, I love the mismatch of frame rates. I love the presentation. I love that it's not just a thing that he talks. He's got thoughts. Yes. He doesn't want to get put next to Sam's butt. He wants to ride in front. He wants to see what's happening.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be Mimir from God of War.
Yeah, exactly. But our man, was it Slappy from Goosebumps? Deserves better.
He looks like that, right? He does look like that dummy from Goosebumps. So my thought on this is that obviously the first game dealt with the idea, with Amelie and Bridget. Like Amelie was Bridget's soul separated from her body. So I'm thinking this is a human soul that has been put in this puppet.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
Like we needed something to contain this poor person.
Yeah. Again, no context for who it is, no context for why. Just I think that, especially as you mentioned, they have a lot of personality and character. Here we see Sam exiting the Magellan. It's at this point that we learn more about the role of drawbridges, right? They're going out to other parts of the world to connect. Obviously, the Death Stranding never really stopped, and it was always kind of destined to come back. That was kind of the point of the end of the last game, is that, Amelie was trying to expedite the Death Stranding. Sam was like, no, give us a chance. Like, we can figure something out, but it seems that obviously it's slowly making its way back into the world, and other parts of the world have not been reunited like Sam was able to do in America, and it seems that this first stop, at least, is Mexico. And we get a lot of imagery. I'm just going to rattle through like some of the stuff we get. So we get stuff that's very similar to what we saw in the first game, although this looks a bit more arid than what we saw in the first game. We have dunes. Obviously, this shot as well, we have Sam carrying packages. So we are doing deliveries. And I was looking at these dunes, and I was like, are there dunes in Mexico? And it turns out there are. There's actually a large dune field in the north of Mexico, so this could totally be there as well. Something that's interesting is this shot. We have Sam running along. This looks like something out of the first game, except for the important fact that it was never nighttime in the first game. I don't know whether we're getting a day-night cycle, but we will get gameplay at night, which will be actually very interesting and will ratchet up the creepiness, I think, and kind of the scariness of running into BTs and all of that. Do you think this whole game is set in Mexico, or are we going to be going across the world and like there'll be multiple countries and continents that we visit?
Of course, I'll always want to say I hope for more. I hope that we go to multiple places, but I hope they're all really well thought out. But I think it entirely be possible to be in one place. But I'm really excited about more urban stuff like this, because we only kind of got that at like the beginning of the trip and kind of the end, if I remember right.
I do agree. I do think that we will just be in, maybe not even necessarily just Mexico, more of the Americas versus, you know, going to Europe or Asia or wherever. So we see some gameplay here where Sam seems to be outrunning a flash flood, and it ends up destroying this bridge. This gives me a lot of vibes of the first game with like when the tar would appear anytime like a BT, you know, presence would be there, except this time it is just water.
I think this is just like, hey, nature's going to be a thing we got to look out for now too. Like it's not just that rain would cause a thing. Now rain can like flood and fill things and destroy things and push things over.
I agree with you. I do think that they are, like, environmental hazards are going to be a thing. We'll see another one in a second. Now, obviously, it's raining here. Sam has his hood up. Do we think that timefall is going to be a thing?
Maybe it'll be back in a weird inverted way, too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I'm still thinking about that logo, and I'm still thinking about a lot of this stuff. Like, what if instead of aging, what if it makes you younger? What if it fixes things?
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Speaking of the inverted logo here, you know, we see Sam walking through this rocky, there's floating rocks everywhere. Things are floating upward. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we never saw the tar act in this way in the first game, because it was always coming from the bottom. We never saw it kind of rising up in this fashion. I could be completely wrong, but I don't have recollection of that.
There may have been something about it, like maybe like grabbing out at something, but I don't think like flying up, flying up, at least that I can remember.
And this is obviously invoking the logo and the fact that it's inverted. Like, there's something going on here that is different, for sure. Here in the next shot, we see this earthquake. We see this, or not an earthquake, but like a collapsing.
Landslide,
Yeah, landslide. You don't just have to watch where you step and like be on balance, but like the ground underneath you could collapse, the water could rush in. Like, environmental hazards is going to be a great way to shake up the formula of the game, and I think will address a lot of issues that people had with the first game of, you know, it's just a walking simulator, which, you know, I know neither of us agree is correct. Hopefully, if there are environmental hazards, that'll really make it feel like there's an added level of activity happening.
Yeah, and this is also just a really, really beautiful shot of
the game looks amazing.
The sun setting against this mountain. And I don't know if it's like a glare back there or something.
The kind of like inverted rainbow thing.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that.
Oh yeah.
Before. I mean, rainbows would obviously like indicate like timefall.
So this is the weird thing. I remember this because we didn't call it out in our video, but I remember someone in one of the comments mentioned it. It was in one of the scenes that we just totally missed. But yeah, like an inverted rainbow thing.
Okay, yeah. So again, inverted, right? The opposite of what came before. So the inversion imagery continues.
Yeah.
Next shot, we see Sam walking around. There's BTs.
I can't tell exactly from the image, but do they have the line going up?
It doesn't look like they do.
Okay, so maybe they're tied down instead of up this time. Because the big thing I remember specifically about them in the last game is they'd have like the cord, umbilical cord coming from the sky. Up. Yeah.
Again, the inversion.
It's there. It's everywhere.
I mean, this is the shot that kind of blew me away in the game. There's a lot going on here. In my notes, I say, where the fuck is this? So, are we on the beach? Obviously, like, Earth, the moon is not this, you know,
close,
like, what is going on in this shot? A couple of things before I get your thoughts. I thought, this looks very much like the Ludens animation for Kojima Productions, right? Like he's on the moon, or he's on a surface, like a lunar-like surface. And then I was also thinking about how the moon affects the tides, right, of the ocean in reality. And so it being close like this might have something to do with that. We also see a BT kind of like flying on the left there.
It is the question of where is the main one that definitely sticks out. And I don't know if this is still on Earth and for some reason the moon is pulled in real close. If we go to space, if we're on like an asteroid or something, we can't tell if Sam's wearing a helmet or anything too, because he's got boxes stacked up. And I do love that point that you made about tides. The gravity being all different and changing how things are flowing and changing how they work.
Now I'm also now that I'm also like looking at this moon, quote unquote, I'm also realizing maybe this isn't the moon. Maybe it just kind of looks like it, but like I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know, like it looks like it might have cities on it, you know? Like it doesn't look craterous. Like if anything, we look like we're on the moon.
There are two moons. There are two moons and going on.
Dude, you know what this is making me think? That we are looking at the Earth and it's color inverted, like a negative.
Oh, because, okay. Yeah. You know, I'm into that too. Whatever craters or things that are there could just be like giant cities where a bunch of people died and they had the like...
And they had the explosions from the exactly, yeah, because there does seem to be some craters, but then as you can, like, some of the stuff on the right-hand side looks like civilization. So I've honestly convinced myself that we are on the moon. We are looking at Earth, and it is an inversion of the color. It is the negative.
I love this. I love that this stuff can be so wild that we're just like, that's the we're on the moon. That's the Earth, and we're like, yeah, I mean,
this may
plausible.
be a beach of some kind. Again, like you said, we can't really see Sam in this shot. We don't like. Is he blue? Like, has he got a helmet on? Like, there's so much more context that we need for this. We have the shot of Sam facing off against a BT. Again, something very similar to what we saw in the first game. However, it is this, like, giant, creepy hand.
Yeah.
And all of the BTs in the first game that we would face, the big ones, not just, like, the humans, were always, like, a recognizable creature. But this is very much like an Elden Ring, you know, like a Dark Souls boss that is completely
It's warped. Absolutely cursed, whatever it is. It looks like it's got like spider legs or like crab legs.
I also think that this is playing with the idea of there being a bunch of things in this world that, are now born of the beaches and like Chiralium and like are warped in a way. Like they're mashed up and they're different. Something else I thought about was the fact that, and we'll see it, I think, even in the next shot, George Miller's character is missing his right forearm.
Oh.
Thought that there was some connectivity there. Don't know how literal that is, but something to keep in mind.
Or disconnectivity.
So right before plunges what remains of his arm into the ship's controls, we do see George Miller is missing that right arm. Seems like he'll have various tools that he can attach to that at some point. But I thought that it was interesting that this ship seems to be controlled by the Tar and is using like the chiral network to run.
Yeah.
Again, the bridging the gap between the real world and the beaches even closer.
There's a lot in that control panel that I wish I could like decipher and figure out. I'm sure that there's some sort of like something there, maybe a cue to a location or something. But yeah, I just love the look of a projected like heads-up display a lot.
Yeah, I do think the Magellan is going to become like a new iconic ship. We have so many of them, but like I think it hopefully will be cool enough to reach that status. Okay, the next shot we see more traditional kind of Death Stranding stuff. Sam has some new cool vehicles he can use for traversal. These are Higgs' new goons, robotic in nature. They seem to have the same kind of like chest and midriff as him, which is this rib cage. They kind of seem to be like if BT pods were made into roided out super soldiers. You know what I mean? They deploy this robot dog that's currently folded on the arm of this robot here. But what's actually more interesting about this shot is actually the dialogue that we get accompanying it. With the support of the chiral network and APAS, humanity will be free from the need to move around. Bots are capable of handling deliveries. So that's an interesting statement, is that humanity is not, we're not even going to return to the old ways of like living outside and like going from place to place. It seems that the world is kind of maybe getting used to the fact that we're living in bunkers and finding ways to adapt to that and like using, robots for a lot of this, not having, human porters, and Kojima, obviously his games have a lot of commentary on, the world that we live in today, and there's a bunch of stuff that you could unpack with that messaging as it relates to the reality we live in now of like leaving it up to machines and becoming secluded, just kind of expanding on the commentary of the first game. This mention of APAS, which I checked the closed captions on the trailer, it's it's APAS capitalized. Is that the name of this organization? Is this the name of Higgs's new organization? What are your thoughts on all that?
I think that's a very good possibility. I love the idea of we've made it through this bad thing, and the conveniences we found for it made our lives easier. Let's just get used to it and use the convenience because it's convenient. Is absolutely a thing that we would do, and I know we already do.
Here is a shot that, you know, on the surface of it isn't very cool, but if you played the first game, is so exciting because Sam can put his backpack down.
Yeah.
Which is great because so much of my frustration and like my dislike of the combat in the first game is that it always kind of was antithetical to like, oh, you have to keep everything safe. And obviously that created, you know, interesting scenarios where like, oh, I have to protect the goods that I'm carrying, but I also have to, you know, fight these humans. We seem to have the opportunity to like, okay, we can kind of put our stuff down so we can focus on fighting for the moment. So that's a huge, exciting thing with the gameplay, which is funny that being able to drop your backpack is like, oh my god, thank you.
It's a really neat thing to be able to have to, yeah, like I said, be able to maybe maneuver better, have more mobility, not have to worry about stuff too much.
And then the other interesting thing is these seem to be the robots that we saw in the previous shot, but they are connected like they are BTs.
Yeah.
Although, again, they don't have the umbilical cord. So what the is going, you know,
what is happening?
What is happening? Finally get the reveal. The person in the mask is absolutely Higgs. Although wearing Amelie's Kipu, which, you know, I still think we may be dealing, you know, obviously we are kind of like left in the dark as to what happened with Higgs. You know, they mention in the dialogue, you know, he came back from the beach. He would have been stuck on the other side when Amelie closed her beach off to the world. I do think that there is more than meets the eye. I mean, obviously, he's got this Joker makeup going on. I don't just think that's like a grungy thing. Mm-hmm. He's got the tears, which we know to be like a chiral allergy, right? Again, interesting inversion. Usually, the tears are black streaks on top of the skin, and here it's a white mask, and the crying and the tears and the streaks are breaking through that white mask. Mm-hmm. So it's literally the inversion of all of the crying imagery that we saw in the first game.
It looks like it's also gold colored, kind of like the chiral like stuff. And
right.
It makes me wonder. I like maybe kind of reading too far into it. Like, what if he like crushed up chiral stuff and used it as makeup? Like, it's gold and it's interesting.
Snorting it.
Yeah, just like lost his mind. I don't know, but it's a very interesting and striking look.
We get a lot of dialogue here. He mentions like he's been, I think, shipping weapons out of this factory across the continent. Mm-hmm. Again, I think we're talking about like, you know, South America and, you know, Central America. We also get the mention of like from Sam of like, did you kill Lou? So like Lou is dead, seemingly. Higgs seems to know more than Sam does and even mentions the fact that like Sam is completely in the dark. So obviously we don't have a lot of context for what they're talking about.
I love the line where he takes his gun away and is like, looks like you've dropped your rope for a stick. Like,
yes,
because it goes back to, of course, the idea of like the basic things we use in the beginning of everything to accomplish tasks and what their basic uses were.
Yeah,
and I love that kind of callback a lot.
Yeah, we get this robot samurai that looks like it looks like a person in a suit. They seem to have the face of an Orodek. They've got a sword. It's making baby sounds.
Yes.
You know, I think, you know, they're speaking about Lou. Higgs says you don't really know what's going on, and then this character shows up. I think that it's implying that this is Louise. And then in the fighting, you know, he is shooting his like electric guitar at the robot on one side, and then it seems that they've teleported to the other side to take out the robots that were holding Sam. Mm-hmm. So it seems like they have a fragile style ability to potentially use the beaches to teleport around mm-hmm. and instantaneously like appear in one place or the next.
I love it because it's kind of like it feels like it's a weird subtle callback, but it's also its own thing at the same time.
Then we get shots of Sam This is young Sam again. This very much looks like, I think this is the room we see heavily featured in the first trailer. I think this is before shit hits the fan and Lou dies and all that, especially because we get the shot of the perspective of the dolphin toy, which I think is the very first shot from the first trailer, hitting his feet. So he's seemingly hiding out with Lou. I saw someone on Twitter post the fact that the shoes that he's wearing, I just think this is a reference, not like there's something here, are the ones that Snake was wearing in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Oh.
They look to be the same, which is probably just like Kojima throwing in a little Easter egg there. I wouldn't read too much into it. But yeah, I'm thinking that the read on this is that this is the opening moments of the game. He is living here with Lou, maybe Fragile, because we do see Fragile in this room, but it's unclear we never see them together in this room. So yeah, your take here.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. I feel like this calm, younger version is definitely taken from something that is meant to be like a beginning of something. The game, a chapter, a set piece in time, a flashback. It's definitely in that same area, definitely in that same zone. And the toy really does a good job of kind of sealing that together.
Okay, then we get, yeah. So we get a lot of dialogue here about Lou, and so this, I think, is either we're flashbacking or we will see this in the beginning of the game, but this, I think, is very soon after the first game. Sam is in the Bridges attire, not the drawbridge attire, so this is, I think, him maybe even searching for a place for them to hide out. It's a very touching shot. This game is gonna make me cry.
Oh, big same.
We get the logo shot, we get the subtitle on the beach, and as you mentioned, the umbilical cords, the strings, the strands are literally going up this time instead of going down. Mentioned incessantly how many things in this trailer are the inversion of what we know. The first game being about the world of the beaches and the chiralium and all of this, the BTs coming to our world. And I think that this game is going to be about us like the opposite. Like we are descending into that world. Yeah. We are exploring that world.
I dig it. I'm into it. It's not an anime beach episode, sadly, but we'll take it.
And then we get a couple more things before we wrap up here. We get a look at Fragile. She's smoking. The cigarette is lit by the hand, which I thought was cool. And she's crying. And then also when she blows the smoke, someone also on Twitter I saw pointed out that, as you can see, there's actually like little BTs in the smoke that she blows out. Is that anything? Is it just like weird imagery? I don't know.
Something being kind of goofy, kind of not. I love, like you mentioned, the lighting the cigarette with the hand. It reminded me a lot of Peace Walker. Oh, I forget his name. He had the first mechanical hand, and you'd flip the thing back to light his cigar.
So then we have, I think, the Cocoon Body, after it's been taken out of the cocoon, again, seeming to rise up. We have the strands connecting to it going upwards as well, so it's almost like it's being pulled in that direction. They start to lower it. We do see Sam also run into this shot to help lower the body. Difficult to tell in this shot if it's Elle Fanning. Obviously, Elle Fanning, we'll see, has blonde hair, but this could just be the tar has caused her hair to be black.
I think it could be. I also think that this might be separate from the one in the beginning.
Oh, you think this might not be the person in the cocoon? This might be a completely separate. We do see Elle Fanning here, and then the other thing that like adds fuel to the fire that this is the same person is the fact that she also has the strands, even though she's been cleaned up. Again, we have the puppet, right? The puppet on the strings. Like, that makes me think that there is something here where that is a soul that has been brought from the beach and put in a puppet. Maybe they weren't able to save their body, but they were able to like put them in this puppet, and maybe they were able to rescue Elle Fanning and they were able to keep her body intact as well. Maybe this is an advanced puppet, I don't know. But we do see that strand imagery there, and it made me think of, being on a puppet on a string. But the dialogue in this scene is very interesting. So I think it's George Miller's character that talks about how there's amino acids in the cocoon and like there is in the tar. And someone asks like, oh, there's amino acids in the tar. And he says, how else did you take that chiral creatures could emerge from it? Some have even theorized that the tar is a sort of primordial soup. I think that gives a ton of credence to the idea that there are animals and even humans being born in the beach now.
Yeah.
And like maybe the connection between life and death is so close that like there are living things now, much like how dead things appear in our world, living things are starting to manifest and appear in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sam says, I was there, I saw her home, and it was a hellhole. So, like, is there civilization in the beach? Like what is happening there? Any thoughts on any of that?
Again, the inversion of living things coming out of the thing where the dead things come out of it. I love
inversion is the word for this trailer.
It really is, and like I kind of like was picking up on it before, like we got to talk about it a little bit, but like now talking with you, like yeah, it's everywhere in it. And I also love the kind of like idea of there being a puppet that is a literal puppet and a puppet that is not a puppet, but someone who's just tied, I guess, to whatever the strings go to.
Yeah, still connected to the beach somehow, potentially. Like, yeah, very interesting. I don't know if they're talking about Elle Fanning in this shot, or like if that Elle Fanning is someone they previously rescued and we're seeing, you know, someone else that they saved. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out more eventually. Now that I think about it too, I think there could be potential that maybe Elle Fanning is Lou. Maybe Lou dies and is reborn in the beach as an adult. And maybe all of these creatures that are coming from the beach are really just animals and people that have died in the real world and then are reborn in the beach. That's just another theory. Maybe the baby is the robot samurai. Maybe it's Elle Fanning. Maybe it's neither. Who knows? And then the final shot to talk about is the last shot of the trailer. We see Sam sitting here. We get voiceover, I think, from Deadman. It sounds like Deadman basically saying that seemingly the story that Sam gave everyone is that he discovered Lou, like he found Lou, like because obviously like his last mission was to destroy the BB, but he ended up saving it and resurrecting them. And so, the mystery around what happened to Lou, what is Lou, there's more going on there. When he looks to the BB pod that's filled with the orange liquid, the bubbles start to appear. Maybe the octopus thing is starting to form. I don't know.
I still think there's something in there, and I'm really excited for when we figure out what it is. But yeah, clearly he's thinking a lot about what used to be. He's staring. I think the dialogue is a reflection on the fact that he's sitting there thinking about it. I'm really excited to hear what other people can like put in the comments that we like missed, or like other ideas or bounce.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff. Yeah.
This is absolutely a greedy video for me to sit here and talk about wild Kojima theories with people on the internet who will tolerate it.
Yes, please do. I mean, that's the final shot of the trailer. So if you guys watching have any things that you noticed in the trailer, or theories, or things that you think maybe we're right about and you want to expand upon, please let us know. I promise we will read every comment and maybe even reply to them. So yes, please consider liking and subscribing to GameSpot YouTube for more Death Stranding stuff as it comes out. Ben, thank you so much for joining today. Appreciate it. Always good to have you to bounce ideas off. I thought you brought a lot of interesting stuff to this.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's always a good time to talk about Death Stranding.
Yes, and hopefully we get, release date 2025, which at one point I'm a little sad because I wanted to play. I was hoping it would be this year, but that just gives me more time to play the director's cut and get around to actually doing that.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll get our hands on Death Stranding 2 in 2025, but we'll have plenty of coverage as more stuff comes out about it over the next year. So yeah, make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you thought, and until next time, guys, we'll see you right here on GameSpot.